Richard Knight, welcome to Fear Unzipped. I'm
Hi.
so delighted to have you here.
Really happy to be here as well. Good to see you.
You're an important person in my life, which I will share with you in a little bit. But just so people know about you, you are probably one of the world's greatest tarot readers. Did you do psychotherapy? Do you also combine it with psychotherapy?
I have 2 degrees in psychology, masters in psychology and education. So there's a background in kind of rooted in that world as well. Yeah.
Which is a wonderful marriage between psychotherapy and the metaphysics. I think and that's what this podcast is pretty much all about. And you are considered by many just to be one of the greatest psychic development mentors around. But let's dive in to you. And you've been doing this for 40 years. So
Plus.
okay. And we're talking about fear on this podcast and how do we unravel it? How do we feel better and more joyful? And because we're always carrying fear around with us in some way. And tarot has helped me tremendously to guide me like a flashlight to navigate my fears in a much more positive way. So let's get to you and tell us how you started when you were a young boy.
Was given my first deck of tarot cards when I was about 5. I was a pretty weird kid. Didn't fit in anywhere. That probably hasn't changed much. And I'm pretty sure one of the relatives thought, let's give the weird kid a deck of tarot cards for his birthday or for his Christmas. And I had no idea what they were. They were just kind of cardboard with pretty pictures, no concept of them. But I immediately was drawn to them. And even, I didn't know what they were there for. I had no idea they were connected to, I guess you'd describe it as fortune telling back in the day. I had no idea what they were. And it was only kind of maybe 2-3 years later that everything just around tarot went, and this is probably the case for a lot of tarot readers of my age. It was the film, James Bond film, Live and Let Die. Up until that point, tarot really wasn't known. It was very fringe, wasn't mainstream. And weirdly, that film just brought it to the attention of the public, the world. And I probably shouldn't have been watching that James Bond film. I was probably underage to watch it. But it just, that's what they're there for. I get it. And then it was all the mystical kind of aura that was around tarot in that film just completely opened doors for me. I had been pretty weird up at that point in terms of I was one of those kids that just knew things that they shouldn't have known instinctively. And tarot kind of gave me a way of developing kind of intuition, psychic ability, because that's how tarot works, primarily, is a key to your intuition. And it just gave me kind of almost a training tool and an absolute fascination that, 50 years later, it hasn't dimmed at all. Coming up 59 and I'm still fascinated with tarot. I still have an obsession with buying tarot decks. It just hasn't appeared at all. So yeah, it's basically been, much as you said, the tarot is an amazing tool to kind of find your way forward, to kind of light the path that you're moving. And it has been for me throughout my life. So it's not something I just teach. It's something I use daily and have used it for clients for, when you say 40 years, that was kind of professionally for 40 years. And I guess it's now 40 plus years because it's still happening. If you know what you're doing with it, and that's the kind of the big question mark that's around tarot. But if you know what you're doing with it, it is an amazing tool for kind of transformation, coaching yourself, coaching others, insight, as well as kind of the ability to kind of look into the future that kind of is part of tarot as well. So,
Do you know the thing that I found about tarot, Richard, is that it's always there to help us. It's never there to make life difficult. It's not going to try to tell you, oh, your life's going to fall apart in a negative way. Everything that it tells us, it's like our higher self, is for our highest good. So every reading to me is a positive reading because it's getting us to our greatest purpose on the planet. Can you just talk more about how tarot can be used in coaching and therapy. And because I am seeing more and more people, or even in business, I'm seeing very successful business coaches working with CEOs and, celebrities, whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
using tarot to
Yeah.
help navigate their client.
One of the main ways that tarot works is it will highlight potentially different routes that you may never have considered. Even in the most basic, the most basic card spread is the Celtic cross, or one of the most basic that people tend to learn. Used properly, it highlights different ways forward. So if you're reading for, and to be honest, I've read for some very well-known CEOs, and in business and celebs, etc., and VIPs. They're just people. They have the same decisions to make, maybe at different levels, but they're just the same people. So I don't have a different approach to tarot, really. If somebody's a CEO of a company, less so. Yeah. In days gone by, you had to rename the tarot so it sounded less woo woo and less mystical, to get in, or to get. I think I said, don't mention tarot, just mention kind of flashcards. Okay, I'll talk about flashcards. Now that's not a problem because I think they've lost quite a lot of the woo woo element. People are understanding them as a psychological tool as well. But one of the beauties with tarot is it will give you alternative viewpoints. It will give you, if you thought you were going to go in that direction and you were struggling with it, it might go, actually, if you look that way, that probably be easier. So one of the beauties of tarot is that it will do that, and actually that it works on that level purely from a psychological. That's the most amazing coaching tool I think that's ever been created. One of the ways I describe that tarot is you're carrying 78 of the world's best life coaches in your pocket. Because in a sense, it's doing what a coach does. A coach is kind of trying to help you find your way forward, the new path, the authentic path. And they do that usually by kind of bringing in concepts and ideas and questions. Tarot, it's built into the tarot. That's why it's an amazing coaching tool. My journey through tarot is I really wasn't part of a community, a new age community or tarot community until about 7 years ago, because I was too busy reading for clients. So my career of kind of read for over 80,000 people. It really wasn't necessary for me to look around at what the field was doing. I was just doing my own thing. So it was a real eye opener about 7 or 8 years ago where I kind of stepped into this field. We were beginning to think about the online courses, etc., etc. To try and find any mention in any of the tarot books. And there's a lot of books being written about tarot, of the ethics of it. How do you actually deliver a reading? I mean, I believe that about 90% of the people who own tarot decks can't actually read them. They like reading books and they like the idea that they might be able to do it. But if you're sat there with tarot cards, you are connecting to somebody's life. You have a responsibility for it. You can do a lot of damage. And there's a lot of horror stories, stupid things that tarot readers have said that might have felt dramatic in the moment. And it's often the case of they've run out of things to say, so they'll just be dramatic. And there's a lot of bad tarot readers out there without any realization, or maybe they just don't care, the impact that's going to have on that person for years to come. The example I often use, and it's one of hundreds I could mention over 4 years of doing this, is there was a lady came to me and she'd had the tarot reading. So she would have probably been in her early 30s, but she had a reading when she was 17, 18 years old. And she'd been told by a tarot reader, you will be pregnant 3 times, but only have 2 children. So she came to me expecting the 3rd child, and she was panic stricken because she was absolutely sure she was going to lose it. And I had to sit down with her and kind of try and dissect that last reading and kind of go, I could go, no, there's a 3rd child there, I can see a breath, etc. So we're all fine there. But she said, why did they say that? And that's a really difficult, why did they say that back when I was 17 years old? And it's a difficult thing to say. And without swearing, which I won't do on your podcast, I have very strong opinions about tarot readers and psychics who work in that way. Again, even in the first session I'm going to be delivering tonight, there is a major section on ethics. And I know for people, I just want to learn how to read tarot. But yeah, I'm telling you, as soon as you start reading for another human being, There's an ethical responsibility you have the moment you do it. And I don't care if it's the first reading you've ever done in your life. There's no such thing as a fun reading. It's something else to say, you might think you're joking around and playing around, but I guarantee you parts of what you're saying are going to go in here. They might laugh and joke at the time, but it's going to stay in here, because that's the power of the mystique of tarot. People take it seriously. And like, from the very first reading you do, there's a potential there to affect somebody's life, both very positively, but potentially negatively if you do it the wrong way.